Welcome to the Grandpa Channel, where stories don't fade, they get recorded. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This podcast is where grandpas and grandchildren pull up a chair, turn on a mic, and let her rip. Grandpa stories are chock full of wisdom, life lessons, and frankly, funny as hell. Your stories are the magic elixir to help your grandkids navigate Mr. Toad's wild ride, aka life. Let's Grandpa. Listen up, grandpas. Have you actually pulled the trigger on recording your life story? I'm talking video, baby. They want to remember your corny jokes, your crooked smile, your rugged good looks, and the jaunty bounce of your voice. What if I told you there was a really easy way to do this? Recently, I sat down and I told my life story on video. Not the whole thing, but the good stuff, the messy stuff, the funny stuff, the parts I didn't want to forget and the parts that I did not want my kids and my grandkids to forget. Planted Media made it so easy. They came to me, set up everything, and then they did some editing voodoo magic that made me look like $1 million. Go to plantedmediaco.com and tell them Rivers sent you, and you'll get a nice little Grandpa Channel discount. All right, back to the show. Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Rivers, also known as Steve, and today we have a wonderful guest, a friend of over 30 years, my friend Doug Wadsworth. Doug's a neighbor, is one of the finest people I know, one of the best fathers, and one of the best, I'm buttering you up, and best grandfathers that I know. So Doug, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, what do you want to know?
I don't know, born, raised, kind of give us some background.
Born and raised in Salt Lake, downtown Salt Lake, kind of in the neighborhood of East High, Highlands High School. Graduated from Highland High School, played football, had a great growing up, lived about a mile from each of my grandparents.
Oh, wow.
So I had a lot of interaction with my grandparents growing up, cut a lot of lawns with them, and cut roses with them. Had a great time.
How many kids do you have?
We had 3, and they're all grown up, married, and on their own. And
how many grandkids?
Well, that's an interesting question because actually we had 12, but now we have 17.
Wow.
17 grandkids with the spouses. And then we've also got 6 great-grandchildren.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
that's bonus.
That is.
Yeah.
They're all in Arizona.
Yeah.
So that's why we go down to Arizona.
Well, that's great. Okay, so tell me about your grandparents. It's unusual, by the way, that someone says that they knew. For instance, I've never heard the voice of either of my grandfathers. They both passed away before I was born a couple of years, and so I've never had the luxury of having a grandpa. But tell me about your grandpas.
Well, my mother's father, my grandfather, Buckle, my grandma and grandpa Buckle lived downtown Salt Lake City. He was a linotype-operator for the Deseret News. You know what a linotype is?
Kind of, but
it's a machine.
It's a machine.
It's a machine that sets type for newspapers. And what it is, the machine heats the lead, and then the linotype-operator goes in and pounds the keys, and the lead is made into typeface. Oh. The typeface is set, goes into the press.
Yeah.
So that's what he did.
Wow.
Got up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, had breakfast with my grandmother, and he would take the bus down to, it originally was the Salt Lake Telegram, and then it became the Tribune, the Deseret News. He worked for the Newspaper Agency Corporation, which was the printer.
It was a joint venture.
Yeah, they printed together.
Yeah, interesting.
So I used to spend a lot of time with them and had a great time. I used to go down to the Deseret Gymnasium for swimming lessons. And that was interesting because you go in there and it was swimming lessons in the buff.
I was going to ask you about that. I've heard these rumors.
I can confirm it.
So obviously it wasn't co-ed.
Oh, yes, it was.
How did they?
They did this, but I think they brought at that age, you're not really aware. But at that age, they brought you in, you had the pool in half with something across it.
Oh, okay.
So the pool was half girls and half boys. But all us little boys, we just
Yeah.
trot out there and get in the pool and learn how to swim. So after swimming lessons, I'd always go to my grandpa's office where I didn't really have an office, but where he worked. And we would finish up his shift, and then we'd go over to the old ZCMI. And in the basement of the ZCMI building, they had a deli and a little grocery store. And we'd go there and have a hot dog, and then we'd catch the bus and go.
Wow. What was he like?
He was a character. He was really a character.
Mm-hmm.
He loved the color red. And so every Christmas he got red ties. It was a time his life was really kind of framed by the Depression, and that they saved everything and they accumulated things. So in the case something like this happened again.
Yeah.
But I went down there a lot, and I finally convinced him to buy a power lawnmower. So I could, his grass was so thick, I got sick and tired of pushing that lawnmower through there. So I went down there every week and pushed the lawnmower and got around. And then we'd go back on his backyard. He lived in a duplex. And so we'd just go in the backyard, and we'd spend about an hour or two just kind of cooling off in the summer in the backyard. My grandmother would, you may not want to put this, my grandmother would be cooling off, and she'd say, "Do you want something to drink?" And she'd open the screen window, the screen on the window, and pass a big pitcher of beer through the screen. And my grandpa would take some ice and put it in a glass, fill it full of beer, and give it to me. And we'd just sit there and enjoy the afternoon.
How old were you?
I was probably 8.
Now, I would be quick to point out that you're no longer doing that.
No, yeah, right. But those are great memories.
A little foggy or something. Oh my gosh.
My other grandparents, my dad's mom and dad, were just wonderful people. He was originally involved with the railroad. He was actually a postal, I don't know what you'd call his job title, but he worked the post office route between here and Caliente, Nevada. And they got the mail all taken care of and processed between Salt Lake City and Caliente, Nevada. He retired from that, and then he went into real estate. And I think he made a bunch of money in real estate.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was in the 50s.
Yeah.
After the war.
Did he buy places?
He did, and he rented them out. I can remember going to the city and county building, and he was paying the property taxes on these houses. And I said, "Well, why are you paying the property taxes? I've got these under contract, and I've got to keep them going." And my grandmother was a Christian Science practitioner.
Was she really? It's a higher level within the Christian Science.
Well, if you want to compare it to something today, it would be ministering.
Really?
Absolutely. She spent hours and hours helping people.
Was she a lovely lady?
She was. I mean, she's very strong.
Uh-huh.
I think she was the first one that actually, I can remember sitting on a front room couch, and she would teach me how to spell what my name was and what it meant.
So what does Wadsworth mean?
Yeah, I really don't know what it is, but I know where most of my ancestors all of them came from British Isles, from England. There was a buckle block in London. My dad's folks all came from Yorkshire, were solicitors.
Oh, that bad, huh?
But when they came to the United States, they came to Indiana and were farmers.
How did they end up out here?
Actually, I think, I don't know about my grandparents, the Buckles, because my grandmother, Buckle, came from La Junta, Colorado. But I had never had heard, and I don't know to this day how they met.
Well, it's always an interesting thing of where you end up. There's always divine coincidences, and there's reasons why you end up where you're at.
There are really reasons.
Have you been back to England?
Oh, yes, but I haven't been to, in fact, I've been trying to convince my wife that's what we need to do, is go back there one more time.
Oh, that'd be really fun.
Yeah, go up to Yorkshire.
Yeah.
We've been to England, but we really didn't go there with the idea of looking at where our family was rooted.
Yeah. So if you had to think about lessons that you have learned from both your grandfathers, what lessons popped?
Probably hard work. Just, they taught me that when you were engaged in something, do your best. Finish something. Always finish what you're trying to do. And my dad was the same thing. My dad, after the war, he actually served in the Air Force, Army Air Force, before Second World War, and then was in the Navy.
Did he see action?
Yeah.
In the Pacific theater?
On the USS LaPorte, which was in fact transport. He was a chief petty officer storekeeper. I was talking to my sister about this yesterday. She said, what was Dad's real job? He was a storekeeper, which accounted for his accounting background. But then his general quarters position was as a gun chief on a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft gun. So he experienced the invasion of Okinawa and kamikazes.
Can you imagine what that would be?
I can't imagine that.
Did he talk much about his service in World War II?
Only, my impression of my dad is that it was a scary time. He talked about jumping off the ship.
Really?
Yeah, because out in the middle of the Pacific, if you've ever been on a ship in the middle of the ocean, you touch the ship and the ship's all metal. And it's hot.
What is it?
It's hot to the touch. It's mostly sun. He often talked about stopping in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and everybody jumping over to
Really?
and swimming.
Really? That'd be quite a jump, wouldn't it?
Well, probably 30 feet. Aircraft carriers are 100 feet.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. It's kind of a fun mind's eye image to think of all the Navy guys just jumping off and swimming and having fun in the waters.
It was.
So tell me about your dad.
My dad was born here in Salt Lake. He was, as my grandmother, and he lost his older brother. I think my dad was about 5 and he lost his older brother. I think his older brother was about 8 years old.
What happened?
I think it was tetanus.
Boy, stuff we wouldn't worry too much about.
You don't even think about it.
No.
So he was brought up really downtown Salt Lake City. My grandpa traveled a lot, so he was alone with my grandma. My grandmother had a great influence on him. My dad became very musical. He studied the piano and organ. He played accompaniment in silent films.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the theaters?
In the organ, in the theaters.
Yeah. Wow.
And he was a Mason. And
so he would have gone to the Masonic Temple on South Temple, which I've been through on a tour. It was fabulous. It was very cool.
And I was there, and he got me involved in D Malay.
Okay, that's the kind of youth version.
Yeah. And so I did that for a couple of years. My dad worked really hard. He worked actually 2 jobs. He worked for the post office right after the war. In fact, it's an interesting story. Before the war, he was working for the post office and sorting mail. And the old post office was on 4 South.
It used to be the court building after, and then now
the court building is now.
I don't know what it is now. Yeah, well, it's a cool building.
It's a beautiful building. He was a clerk in there and sorted mail, and he was down, I think it was after Pearl Harbor. In fact, it was the January after Pearl Harbor. And so he was down sorting mail, and he wrote of the experience that his friend who was in there with him came up to him and he said, "Farrell, I got this letter for you from the Selective Service. Do you want me to give it to you now, or do you want me to send it through the mail?" Yeah. So he just got about 2 years earlier, I think, in 1939, he got out of the Army Air Corps, went in the Army Air Corps for a couple of years. And so he said, "Send it through the mail," because he didn't want to open that letter yet. So
he knew it was coming.
He went right down and enlisted in the Navy.
Did he? Very interesting that day.
Yeah.
So when you enlist, I don't come from a military background. My dad, was in the Army during the Korean War. But what advantages are there for enlisting rather than being drafted?
Probably rank, first of all. If you have any prior military experience, you get probably
and I did. Yeah.
So, and then choosing where you wanted to, what type of a job you wanted.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was in his best interest.
Oh, yeah.
So he did the smart thing by saying, just send it through, and then boom.
Then he went home that next day, he got the letter and said, he wrote out, said,
I'm
enlisted. So.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And my recollection of my mom and dad after the war was really great. My dad stayed in the reserves for 35 years. And retired, and we went on just every sort of active duty that you could imagine all over the West Coast, going to San Diego and San Francisco and Seattle. When he would go 2 weeks at a time, we'd go with him.
Would you?
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Now tell us about your military service.
Well, I started my military service kind of out of high school. My first year in college, we had to start doing something because of Vietnam. All my friends were going to Montana and Idaho and getting in the National Guard because the draft was coming. My number was 113 in the draft, so I knew that something had to be done. And so I went and kind of sought out programs, basically Navy. I'd been working with my dad with a couple of guys that he had been in the Navy with. And so I went through a series of interviews and got into a program that would ultimately get my commission. So between my sophomore and junior year, I went to half of OCS, Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island. Came back, did my junior year, went back for the second half and graduated, but weren't commissioned because you had to be a college graduate. And then when I graduated from the University of Utah, I got my commission, my uniform at graduation, got commissioned with a good friend that I went to Washington, D.C., and he went to Vietnam.
How did he come back?
He did. He got wounded 6 times in Vietnam.
6 times. Wow.
Now he lives in Wisconsin and I think he's retired now. I ran track with this guy for 3 years, and he lives in Wisconsin and is a fire expert in how to combat fires.
Really?
Teaches at the college.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. So one thing that we talked about just before we started here was there was an event that happened in your family that I want to have you share with us to the extent you want to share. And then the idea, I think, what I'd like to maybe think about is how you felt your role as a father and then as a grandfather to the kids. How long ago was it?
Oh, it's been 4 years.
Wow.
Let me describe Dan first. Dan was 6'3", married, 4 kids, everything. I mean, he's really a brilliant kid. And I say a kid, he's almost 50 now. But, I mean, he was into everything. I mean, all sports. Dan is the type of person who helps everybody and figures things out. He was also the family purchasing agent.
What way?
Well, if there's anything anybody wanted, we'd always talk to Dan, and he'd find where to purchase it and how to get the best price and the best quality and all that. And he still functions that way.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to watch he and his brother. Now, he and his brother Mike are 2 years apart. Mike's the oldest and Dan's the youngest child. Growing up, they were not the best of friends.
Really?
And both served a mission overseas. Well, not Dan. Dan served in Baltimore, which was like being in a third world country. In fact, when he was on his experience there, he often said that his best friends, because he served inner city Baltimore, and his best friends were the drug dealers because they would provide the protection needed so that they could circulate around and do their work. In fact, one of the people that really befriended him wondered why he was on a bike all the time. And so he presented him with a Mercedes. He said, you can use this Mercedes for as long as you wanted. And so, but the president said, no, you can't do that.
That's correct.
He was reluctant a little bit to go and have this experience for a couple of years, but he did and just did a wonderful job. So coming back, he's just a wonderful father and just active and helper. So anyway, let's get to the experience. He was trying to get a piece of medical equipment out of his attic. His boy was going through some surgery, and he wanted to get us one of these knee scooters out of his attic that Joan had used, that he had been using. So he went up into his attic in his garage, which is a big 3-car garage. Actually, it's a 4-car garage. But anyway, he was up there, and as he was getting this, he stepped off the rafter and fell back down through the ceiling.
Oh, boy.
And landed on the back of his head, and then his body came down and broke his back, broke his neck and his back. So that was the experience. His daughter came out, and he was trying to get up, and his daughter was telling him, stay down, don't move. And she was really amazing. She directed sort of what was going on at that instance.
Wow.
So
how old was he when it happened?
This was 4 years ago, so he was about 44, 45. I mean, it was really a shock to all of our family, of course, because the first thing we knew was that something's happening to Dan. He's in the hospital. He fell through the ceiling. That's all we knew. And we just immediately went to the hospital. And at the hospital, I can just remember like it was yesterday, he was in the emergency room, immobilized. He had had 2 breaks in his skull, and he was bleeding. His pillow was just crimson red in the hospital, and they said, well, we've got to get him into surgery. After that, he went into surgery, and I was really concerned at the time that he's going to have an emergency room surgeon operate on him, and they brought in somebody really terrific.
Top flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he became a paraplegic from that point on.
What movement does he have?
He has everything above his belly button, basically.
Really?
Everything else is.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too, because over the years, there is some connectivity, because his spinal cord was not severed. And so we were really hoping that everything would normalize after a little bit. But so now, whenever he scratches the top of his finger, he can feel it in his right foot. But he's still in considerable pain.
Is he? Is it constant?
Wears him out.
Yeah.
Every day.
Is he able to work?
He does. He works from home. His employers have been fabulous. They were very supportive and just really wonderful to give him the time and then actually get him back into the job.
What does he do?
He is the director of security for SoFi.
Okay.
And so he does all of their computer security and physical security, things like that.
Wow.
And risk analysis. He does risk analysis for them.
So as a dad and as a grandpa and as a great-grandpa, when you have something like that hit, what do you start thinking? Or is it you just jump into action and do what you can? Or describe kind of some of the feelings that you had, when all this went down.
You don't really have a time to strategize. You just have to do. And sorry. It was a tender time. But you can't take time. So as you really try to support people, you really try to make somebody not only feel hopeful that this is not just the end of your life. Not only him, but his family was facing all this. And so all of that had to be, I don't know if we did anything consciously. I don't think Joan and I ever talked about, well, this is what we have to do in this circumstance. We
just did it.
We just had to stand up and do what we thought, because everybody was reacting to this new position and new lifestyle. And so you didn't know how they were going to react. Everybody stood up, especially the family stood up.
How did you and Joan deal with the kids? Did you spend a lot more time with them to allow Dan's wife to...
They were amazingly strong.
Were they? How old were they at the time?
Well, let's see. Molly was 19. Mo was about 17. Jack was 13 or 14. And Nathan was maybe 10. So I think that they really, they were wondering what was going to happen. We just tried to be there to say, things will be fine, to trust. We used our faith to understand some of this and the hope that comes from that faith. That's really what we use.
Well, which is maybe another question I might ask you is, how do you, as a grandpa and as a great-grandpa, but I imagine the great-grandchildren are pretty small.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty young. And
the oldest is 7.
Okay. But how do you, Doug, how do you share your faith with grandchildren?
Well, I think demonstrating your faith, we, always have prayer in the house. We always refer to our relationship with the Savior. We always have expectations of what they are doing and how they're participating and exercising their faith. And so basically by showing them that we believe, and we believe because of this and this and this. And it's not a sit down face-to-face type of deal. It's probably more of an assumption on our part that when they see us exercise faith, they can have confidence that there is something there that will help them through their life. There's a pattern to life that has a success coefficient. So if they will follow those patterns, they have a better chance. But even in adversity, just like my son is in adversity, that faith not only brings you through those critical situations, it gives you a pattern to go forward and know that things are going to get better and that they will turn out.
So 4 or so years in the future since the accident, what's been the effect, as you've noticed, with your grandkids?
Oh, my grandkids, they're very supportive. They're always concerned. I mean, across the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Their level of concern has deepened, not because of his needs, but because of what he has demonstrated in responding to this challenge. And so Dan has been a terrific example.
Has he?
I mean, the things he's accomplished and continues to accomplish and bring others along. He has 2 friends that he graduated from high school that called him up last year and said, we would like to take you to Arches National Park and experience delicate arch. And so here are these 2 guys that are in their 40s. And Dan doesn't associate with these guys very much, but they just called him out of the blue and said, we want to do this. And so Dan went and used his equipment that he's accumulated to accomplish that. What was interesting about this is that as they went up, have you ever been to?
Yeah, I've been.
So you've hiked up to Delicate Arch.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what the terrain is like.
It's not super easy.
No. Well, Dan's got an electric 3-wheel off-road bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's a tremendous effort. I mean, he goes out on this all the time with his boys.
Yeah.
And so they followed him up there and got him up to where that lip is to go into the bowl.
Yeah.
There. And he had to get out of his bike and then get it lifted over by these 2 guys. And then he had to get over and get back in it. And so after all of that, what happened was there was a line to get underneath the arch to get your picture taken. So he sat there in the line and they went out and got their picture taken with their arms up. And as they put their arms up, there must have been 200 or 300 people in that bowl, and they all cheered. They all were just cheering that he was able to do that.
Wow.
So it was.
That's pretty cool. So has Dan been able to keep a pretty good attitude about things?
It's an amazing, Dan was really good and still is good with his hands. He was a fixer, just fixed all sorts of things. And so he's had to kind of adjust everything to his height. Going from 6'3" or 6'4" to 4 feet 10 inches is a big change in your life. And so all of his tools now had to be accommodated. And so he's done all that, and he still does a lot. He changes brakes on cars. He teaches his kids how to work on cars, and their latest project was his brother bought a truck, and they put lifts on the front of the truck, and he was right there doing all that stuff.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is. He wants to do everything himself. His boys are into sports, and they were into soccer and flag football and all that. And, we'd go to the games with them and support them that way. And, rolling through grass is not easy for a paraplegic. And so when you were going uphill, and he wouldn't let me push him. So he just wants to be independent. And he's doing fine.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that this accident has had an impact on you as a grandpa and as a dad, obviously. Superman has his superpowers. He also has a weakness for kryptonite. If I asked you, Doug, what do you think one or more of your superpowers is? And I'm going to ask you what your kryptonite is. What would you say that your superpower is? And it could be something that's you've had all along, or it's something you've developed because of the things that you've gone through. But what's a superpower that you have? How would you answer that question?
That's a difficult question.
It is.
I think if I were to try to define something that I work on, it would be to get along with people, yet at the same time accomplish something. And probably that's also been why I've been successful in certain areas, is getting along with people and trying and being factual.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to be in today's world. In fact, you assume that things are the way that they're factual, and they turn out not to be. Yeah. And so I think we all need to be a lot more careful about.
But I think people generally want to know the truth about their situation. And I worked for the government for 40 years, and I found out that my compadres sometimes gaslight things so that they get their way or try to have their own agenda. And basically, being truthful and honest in all things is really a better way to go.
So what do you think your kryptonite is?
Thinking I'm right all the time.
Well, you are, right?
You can ask my wife.
Joan, by the way, for those of you who don't know her, she's got a fabulous sense of humor. She's wonderful. I think
Me on the straight and narrow.
Joan reminds me of my mom. Great sense of humor. She expected me to stand up, and to sit up straight and all that sort of stuff. And
corrects what you're wearing.
Yeah. But I think that
goes through the family, by the way,
Yeah, it does. Yeah. What has surprised you of being a grandpa that maybe you didn't know, as you're raising these kids and all of a sudden, you're a grandpa? Has there been anything that sort of surprised you?
What surprised me is that the only book of knowledge that you have as a father and then as a grandfather is what you've experienced. Joan and I, when we started having our family, we read some books and we found out, not really that good. But what we did find is that the techniques and the love, the caring, and the amount of concern for our children and our grandchildren, it mirrored what we felt as we were growing up. And so far, I think that's worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it continues to work.
Yeah.
And we can see our children working with their children.
That's got to be satisfying, isn't it?
It is. You see their mistakes.
Yeah.
And you step back.
Well, let's list them right now. Well, let's be really specific. I'm just joking.
But children, as parents can be brutally frank with grandparents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it is a different role to be a grandparent. And to take that one step further, it is really a different role to be a grandfather and see your children actually become grandparents.
Yeah.
And how you have to say, well,
what's my role?
Let me step back a little bit and let them enjoy being grandparents. They really are.
I have found my own personally that there's a lot more fun, a lot of humor involved. My daughter Emily has one of her youngest. He just has a fun way of looking at things and says funny stuff. And, he's irrepressible. And I find that with, each of the grandkids have these wonderful qualities that I just go, did they get it from their mom? Did they get it from the dad? Or did they just come, to the table, with that? And
it's so much fun. To me, it's so many different things. I had somebody talk to me, this is back when we lived in California, and was talking about some of these, where do you get all this stuff from? And especially from a management point of view, where do you get your management philosophy from? How do you work with people? How do you get things accomplished? And he says, you take things from different things from different people and you try them out and see if they work. And so your own philosophy of how you deal with people is a real conglomeration of your life's experience and what you've learned. And that's what you pass on to your children and your grandchildren. And I found that, as your grandchildren are maybe below the age of 12, are totally different people from after the age of 12.
Yes.
And so sometimes they become more serious. Sometimes they get a little more funny.
Yeah.
We've got one grandson that just loves jokes. And so...
Does he always try them out on you?
No, these are not jokes. These are far sides.
Yeah.
And so we go through those far side experiences. We're always trades firesides with, and other, pickles and all the... Yeah. Whatever Joan finds, she'll work with our grandson, and they trade jokes back and forth.
Yeah. The one thing that I've noticed, too, as a grandpa that's been shocking is how much fun the cousins, your grandkids, my grandkids have together. I don't remember having that much fun, with my cousins. I was the oldest and sort of too cool for school, and they were great people. And I feel bad because I just, I'm older and you guys are, go run along, leave me alone sort of a thing. But the associations of my grandkids with each other, it's so intense and it's so much, and there's, chaos sometimes, but they just love being together. And I guess I underestimated that.
It was kind of a surprise for us too, because we have the same experience. Our grandkids have a great time together. They play games together. They go recreate together. We took, we had every other year was our practice to take the family on a vacation. And it usually was to Lake Powell because we were all boaters and had those experiences. But what we have tried to do is kind of improve that. As they get married, we try to get our grandkids and their spouses together once a month and we just take them out to dinner so we can all get together and laugh and eat. And they just like to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I've got a couple of questions for you to kind of finish out things. To draw on your experience as a grandfather and a great-grandfather, what advice would you have for a 30-year-old son or someone that you knew that's starting a family, and all of a sudden it's that slippery slide of all of a sudden you've got your kids are getting married, they're doing this, they're doing that. What advice would you give them?
If I was to look back and make a change, I probably would say enjoy the times as they occur a little bit more. Savor the moments and share those. Life is really busy. I mean, it's really busy. And I was working 2 jobs and traveling. And so it was the times that we spent camping and doing things like that. You have to make those times happen. And so those are conscious efforts. And because that's what they remember too. And they talk about them. We talk about them all the time. I'm having lunch with the boys on Thursday. Whenever we get together, we're talking about some of the stupid things that they did when they were young that they don't remember.
Yeah. And of course, you want to sharpen their memory.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
In fact, we're pack rats at our house, and I was down going through some of the stuff, and Joan had saved all of their elementary school work.
Wow.
Which is, I think the weight of the paper alone was amazing. But I learned a lot about my daughter.
Really?
About Jenny, and about how imaginative she would write these elaborate stories.
Yeah.
She would handwrite them, and they would become, they could become wonderful children's books. They're just great imagination.
Yeah.
And she didn't remember anything about that.
Isn't that interesting? Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we're going to take those down when we go.
Oh, I think that'd be a great idea. Great idea.
And I'm going to take the similar things that the boys have produced in their elementary school days to lunches.
So now how old is Mike? Is he?
Mike's 51, I think.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy.
And he's doing well. They live in Alpine, and they've got one daughter that's married, and then one son that's going to University of Washington. They're just doing well. Another daughter is going to BYU.
So if we could put 30-year-old Doug in my chair with me, what would you say to 30-year-old Doug from what are you 59?
A couple of decades ago,
yeah. What would you say to the 30-year-old Doug?
Probably slow down. Because it was really busy, and thank heavens you have a wife that's a partner in this experience and took the brunt of the work of raising the family. I mean, you were bringing home the bacon kind of, but really, Joan's personality runs wonderfully through our children and our grandchildren, and I'm really thankful for that. There's 2 things that are really important. I was reading something this morning that said there's 2 things that are really important in life, and that is your marriage and your family. I mean, that's it. Everything else is absolutely
superfluous.
It just goes away.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And that's something to kind of keep in mind. I just barely turned 70, and, I can see the hand of God in my life, but I can also see that I wish that I had slowed down a little bit. I was just so focused and intense, and I know that it manifested itself in some short answer.
Oh, it does, yeah.
And I wish that weren't the case.
And I think another thing you need to, as a 30-year-old, you need to understand that laughter needs to play a bigger role in your life than sternness. Or I used to come home, and sometimes all I would face would be repairs. There'd be a hole in the wall here, or there'd be something that wouldn't work, and you'd just get out your tools and go to work. And, so there are things that you have to really laugh at.
Yeah.
And your story about your basement, it was just,
Oh, the second base.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a
Yeah.
hilarious story.
Yeah.
And your kids probably laugh about that.
Oh, they do. We had a son who was talked into thinking that we had a second basement below our first basement.
Didn't it have a hot tub in it?
Oh, it had an Olympic-sized swimming pool with silos of cold cereal and gigantic, televisions downstairs. And he would come to me and he says, "Is there a second basement?" I said, "Listen, Andrew, there is no second basement." And then his two older brothers would just say, "Oh, Andrew, you just got to believe." And they had him doing their chores all summer of his 8th year on planet Earth. But, the family treasure trove of stories is something else. And we love to tell them over and embellish them, to a large or small extent.
That's kind of normal.
And it's just kind of normal, but we seem to still laugh at them.
We do.
Yeah.
Every family's got those that they're embarrassing some of them, but some of them are just amazing.
No, that's true. Well, Doug, I want to thank you for being here. It wasn't as bad as you thought it might be.
No.
I will warn you that some of our people who've been on for the dialogues have had paparazzi problems. So I just want to...
That's why I'm leaving town tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to our show today with Doug Wadsworth, my really good friend Doug. And this was great, and I think I'm going to go take a nap. All right, that's it, man.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or better yet, tell your favorite grandpa. We're on a mission to gather 1 million grandpas, storytellers, wisdom keepers, and lovable wild cards. Until next time, keep the mic hot, the memories fresh, and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.